The Wild Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches.
Take a walk on the wild side in the Palm Beaches. Ecotourism is big business in Palm Beach County. From lions to loggerheads, our resident wildlife population is one of the things that makes the Palm Beaches a special place to visit. Aquatic adventures let you see our majestic sea turtles and tropical fish in living color, while our zoos, wildlife parks and natural areas give you an up-close look at everything from rhinos to alligators. It is here that nature is on full display. It's like nowhere else in the world. As one of the largest counties east of the Mississippi, we have lots of room to explore the wild animal encounters that are seemingly endless in the Palm Beaches. Ever wished you could swim with dolphins or get up close to a manatee? In the Palm Beaches, you can. From the Florida Everglades and the Loxahatchee River to the Intracoastal Waterway and the Atlantic Ocean, take a walk on the wild side and discover the great outdoors in a tropical paradise. Join me, James Currie, as we discover the Wild Palm Beaches.
On this episode of Wild Palm Beaches, we'll visit Lion Country Safari and meet a very big baby and get up close and personal with one of the Palm Beach's most iconic reptiles. Then it's time to get wild with Jada and Benji as they kayak through the beautiful Loxahatchee Blueway. All this and more right here on the Wild Palm Beaches.
Lion Country Safari is a big part of the Wild Palm Beaches. Let's see what's new at this incredible facility. Lion Country Safari opened in the summer of 1967 in rural western Palm Beach County with dozens of free-roaming lions and a few other species. The drive-through safari park is believed to be the first cageless zoo in the country, introducing a new concept in zoology and bringing the experience of an African game park to families who would otherwise not be able to experience an African safari. The Palm Beaches proved to be an ideal location for the park due to its year-round tropical climate, plentiful land, a growing population, and tourists who visit from all over the world. Lion Country Safari is a leader in Palm Beach County's tourism industry, offering a unique and affordable opportunity to enjoy the largest drive-through safari in Florida. The park is accredited by the Association of Zoos and Aquariums and has also been recognized as one of the top 3 zoos in America by USA Travel Guide, one of the 10 best safari parks by USA Today, and Palm Beach County's top local attraction. At Lion Country Safari, large herds of animals from 6 continents roam free. Over 1,000 wild animals, including lions, wildebeest, giraffe, the largest herd of zebras on record in North America, ostrich, chimpanzees, and rhinos, call Lion Country Safari home and roam wide-open, naturalistic habitats. Believe it or not, here in western Palm Beach County, rhinoceros have the right of way, and it's not hard to see why. This afternoon we're here at what best can be described as the maternity ward at Lion Country Safari. And when I say maternity ward, I'm referring to white rhinos, because here we've got Mother Bloom, who's 22 years old, and we've got her 2-week-old young calf called Josh. I'm here with Hayley Possessor of Lion Country Safari, and she's going to tell us a little bit about the rhino program here at Lion Country. So tell me, how long has the program been going with the white rhinos here?
Lion Country Safari has been participating in the white rhinoceros species survival plan since the 1970s. And since that time, we've had 38 white rhinos born here at the park.
It's quite a privilege to be standing here with white rhinos, considering the fact that at the turn of the 20th century, there were probably no more than 60 southern white rhinos left in the entire world. And most of them came from my home country of South Africa, in the northeastern portion of South Africa, a place called KwaZulu-Natal. And it's from that seed population that all white rhinos found in the world today originate. So today we're looking at numbers around 18,500 or thereabouts, and it's testament to the great success story of the conservation of this iconic species. And you guys here at Lion Country Safari are doing some fantastic work, so tell us a little bit more about that.
Yes, we're always happy to support the conservation efforts of the species, especially species that are as threatened with extinction, such as the white rhinoceros. And as part of continuation of that conservation programming, we are a happy participant of the AZA's, or the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, White Rhinoceros Species Survival Plan. That's a lot of words to basically say that we are participating in the long-term conservation of a healthy population of white rhinos under human care as the wild populations decline and face threats. So currently we actually do have 2 white rhino calves that were born very, very recently. So we have Josh, and then we also do have Aziza.
That's great, and I believe that Bloom is not a first-time mother, is she?
She's not. Bloom has been a wonderful participant of the species survival plan, especially since her genetics are considered underrepresented in the population. So that makes her contributions even more valuable. And this is actually, Josh is her 5th calf that she's had.
And tell us why it's important to have rhino in captivity and breed them in captivity. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, it's cruel to maybe have them here. They need vast areas in which to roam. Tell us a little bit about why it's important, but also the habitat here at Lion Country Safari for these white rhinoceros.
Of course. So I'd like to start and just kind of reiterate that the rhinos that are behind us, Bloom and Josh, are in a maternity area. And this is a really important area so that they can form that really close mother-son, mother-calf bond. Bloom's only job is to focus on being a mom, so there's no herd politics or anything of that nature. And we form that close bond here. But once Josh gets a little older and a little bit bigger, they get to go out into the main herd habitat with the rest of the herd and roam tons of acres of habitat throughout the day. So we have a really great setup here at Lion Country Safari where we have acres and acres for the animals to roam free, and then guests as they're coming through are actually confined in their own vehicles while the animals roam free around them. So this is so important for the animals as well as the conservation of the species. So it's important for us to be able to have these kinds of breeding and conservation programs like the White Rhinoceros Species Survival Plan, because it ensures the long-term survival of the species under human care, to make sure that there is always a population that continues to exist. In the event that rhinos need to be repopulated in the wild, that can be something that could potentially be accomplished, and we see that with other species. So that's really important to make sure that we continue to have a healthy population. And also kind of on the other side, it's really important for people to make connections to these animals. Without seeing animals like Bloom and baby Josh, they may not understand exactly how impressive, how fascinating, how amazing white rhinos truly are. And we need to see these animals to really want to care for them and want to conserve them long term. We know exactly who is whose parents, who would be a good mate with whom, and we work cooperatively with other Association of Zoos and Aquariums accredited facilities to make sure we're maintaining those healthy populations, not just health-wise, but also genetically healthy as well.
And there's nothing cuter than a baby white rhino. You know, people often think, oh, how can a rhino be cute? But look at this little guy and have a look at his facial features and his antics. They're really playful, and when you see a baby white rhino in the field, especially the young males, they get really boisterous. And this little calf is only 2 weeks old, but yet he'll walk up to anything unfamiliar, he'll do a mock charge, and he'll sort of run back, and they almost have this like puppy dog appearance in their antics, don't they?
They do. And we have such an intensive care program here. You know, as he's exploring his world, we'll start to introduce him to contact with the keepers, because as they get older, we want to make sure that we're constantly aware of their health and their state every morning. So it's important for him to become comfortable with the keepers checking on him, inspecting him, making sure his eyes look healthy. So you'll see as he gets older, he'll start to get a little bit more comfortable coming closer to keepers, even though he's still very curious, adventurous, and exploring everything that's new around him.
So when will he actually venture out into the main area? to join the other rhinos?
That's a great question. They will usually come out after about 3 months in the maternity area, so it's a good solid 3 months of bonding, nursing from mom, growing a little bit, getting bigger, and getting a little bit more confident as well.
And it's amazing watching these rhinos and looking at how well adapted they are to their lifestyle of feeding on grass, because they're different species of rhinos. There are 5 species worldwide and 2 species found in Africa. The white rhino, which is broken into 2 subspecies, the northern white rhino, which is almost extinct, and the southern white rhino. And if you look at the 2, and then there's the black rhino, which is the other species, but if you look at the 2 species, there's a lot of difference between them, because white rhinos are grazers, and if you look at the body structure, you'll notice that their heads are elongated and they almost graze like lawnmowers from side to side. And look at the big hump on the back of the neck between the shoulders, and that big hump is basically pure muscle, which is used to control and support that neck as it moves from side to side when they graze. So the source of the demise of rhinos across the world is that right there, their horn. And the horn on a white rhino, in fact all rhinos, is basically just keratin, the same substance found in our fingernails. And it's really tragic because there are no real functional uses for white rhino horn. A lot of people in the East will say, oh, it's great for, dagger handles for young men in Yemen, for example, when they graduate to manhood. And then people will say you can grind it up for medicinal purposes, aphrodisiacs, all kinds of cures and so-called medical uses, but none of this has been proven. And it's crazy that we've brought an entire species basically to its knees for something that really isn't medically useful whatsoever. And we're very privileged here in the Palm Beaches to witness the recovery of incredible species like southern white rhino and the great work that you are all doing here at Lion Country Safari, ensuring that if white rhino, God forbid, do go extinct in the wild, we have a great population of them here in captivity where we can replenish those stocks that become extinct. Lion Country Safari participates in many conservation and breeding programs for threatened species, including white rhinos, zebra, oryx, siamangs, and more. These programs help to ensure the survival of a healthy, sustainable population of threatened species in human care, and help facilities like Lion Country Safari to act as lifeboats or figurative arks as wild populations decline and face extinction. Dr. Tina, you have a number of local conservation projects here at Lion Country Safari. Tell us what's going on behind us over here.
Yeah, so behind us is actually a pilot project that we are spearheading, investigating the prevalence of a parasitic disease that impacts monarch butterflies, which are endangered. A big problem that we see in South Florida, so this is where monarchs overwinter. Unfortunately, we can't really find native milkweed, which they are very dependent on, in local nurseries. So local nurseries tend to sell tropical milkweed, and now this giant milkweed, which is beautiful and appropriately named giant milkweed. So people are really enjoying it, but we don't know how monarch butterflies are impacted by breeding and utilizing the giant milkweed that is being sold throughout all sorts of nurseries in South Florida. So we're just investigating kind of the correlation between this debilitating disease and monarch butterfly usage here at Lion Country.
Oh, that's great. And tell me a little bit about the other local conservation projects that you have going on here.
Yeah, so another big one that we do is actually right here. It's our MODIS tower. MODIS is Latin for movement, and it is a radio telemetry tower that is meant to track the migratory movement of small animals, such as birds, but also bats, dragonflies, butterflies. Basically anything that flies and migrates can be tracked by our MODIS tower. By having it here on Lion Country Safari property, we are contributing every day to approximately 300 different research projects that are investigating how animals migrate, why they migrate, when they migrate, what kind of ecological variables impact their migration. If we know that birds are migrating through here and they're using a really important area, we can use that data and make sure that we're protecting that particular area for those birds.
Great. Well, with that, from the small to the large, we're late for the alligator feeding. So we're going to zip off and have a look at the alligator feeding, but stay right with us. We'll be right back.
The Wild Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches.
It might be hard for someone to understand how beautiful and majestic the alligator is as a creature, unless you have actually seen one. It's impressive. You feel awestruck that something so big and something so prehistoric still exists today. The alligator has a long history as a Florida icon. American alligators were once considered almost extinct. By the 1950s, endless hunting had almost wiped out the wild population. By the 1980s, the population managed to recover, and gators were removed from the endangered species list. The American alligator is known as the largest reptile in North America and is the official state reptile of Florida. Alligators are an apex predator and appear in multiple places around the continental United States, but they're most predominantly known for living in Florida because of the Everglades ecosystem and a large number of swamps. Let's get one thing straight. Alligators and crocodiles are not living fossils. However, that doesn't stop people from referring to them as such, and why wouldn't they? They look like something that crawled out of the prehistoric era. Here in the Palm Beaches, alligators rule the waterways.
Here we're at our alligator habitat where we have 4 female alligators and they are getting fed.
These are alligator biscuits. They're made of beef, chicken, and fish, kind of like dog food, so they're crunchy and they float.
Now, as the food hits the water, you might notice they're able to pretty well pinpoint where that food is hitting. Alligators have all over their jaws what are called integumentary sensory organs, or basically nerve endings, that are super sensitive to vibrations in the water or any splashing. So it's usually helpful to locate prey that's swimming or splashing around, and also really helpful to locate their food here as well. So they're able to get a really good idea of where that food is without really even seeing it. Alligators have about 70 to 80 teeth in their mouth at any one time, and they're constantly losing and regrowing those teeth. They also have extremely strong jaws, with them registering as having over 2,000 pounds per square inch of pressure behind their jaws. So that makes them really great predators. They're also pretty quick. They can swim pretty quickly when they want to, but since they are cold-blooded and they're reliant on warming up in the sun to increase their temperature, they try to not expend energy if they don't have to. So Florida is in the native habitat range of alligators, and alligators do enjoy slow-moving fresh water, so that could be lakes, ponds, canals, slow-moving rivers and streams, and they actually live throughout the state of Florida. Now, alligators used to be on the brink of extinction until they were put on the endangered species list when the Endangered Species Act was passed. And thanks to those protection efforts, they've actually come back, and they have a pretty numerous population with about 1 to 2 million alligators here in the state of Florida alone. Now, even though their population is much higher than it was in the past, they are still protected as a keystone species, since the gator holes that they create are really important to the environment, especially here when we experience drought in Florida. And they are also very similar in appearance to the American crocodile, which is endangered. So by protecting both the alligator and the crocodile, we avoid any confusion. So alligators as adults can reach over 10 feet in length, with males being closer to about 10 to 12 feet in length and females closer to about 8 to 10 feet. So usually you can tell if the alligators are extremely large, they're generally a male, or they could be a younger alligator if they're smaller, or a female. Now, there's actually a pretty neat way, or a quick tip to tell how big an alligator is. If you can't see the whole alligator, like here, you might not be able to see them nose to tail when they're in the water. You can actually, from a distance, estimate about how many inches are between the alligator's eyes and their nose, and then convert that to feet. So if you see about 8 inches between an alligator's nose and eyes, you can guesstimate that the alligator is probably about 8 feet in length. Now, alligators are also ambush predators, so you'll also notice as those eyes and nostrils are placed right on top of their heads, they're able to submerge themselves, where they're able to just have those nostrils and those eyes above the surface of the water, really hide that they are in fact an alligator present in that water. which makes it great if they're sneaking up on prey such as birds or raccoons, or even turtles that might be along the water's edge. So they're actually referred to as an ambush predator. Now there's a couple cool ways to tell an alligator apart from a crocodile, and some of the best ways are to look at their head, in particular their snout shape or their smile. Now alligators tend to have a much more rounded snout here in the state of Florida with the American alligator, so it's kind of what we refer to as a U shape, whereas a crocodile will have a much more narrow snout, which is a little bit more like a V. Now, if you're also looking at the alligator from the side while their mouth is closed, you'll only see the top teeth on an alligator. On a crocodile, you'll actually see both top and bottom teeth interlocking, mouth closed or open. Alligators also have some pretty neat adaptations for swimming as well. Their tail is extremely long and powerful, filled with muscle to power them through the water at pretty high speeds. They also have the ability to close and pinch their nostrils closed, so if they submerge themselves underwater, they kind of use that to keep water from getting into their lungs. If they're eating underneath water, they actually have a part of their mouth that they can close off to prevent water from coming into their bodies while they're trying to catch prey. And then they also do have 3 eyelids. So they have a standard top and bottom eyelid, but they also do have a third clear eyelid that comes across from the side, and that is referred to as a nictitating membrane. And that nictitating membrane that they can see through is essentially just built-in water goggles, so they can see what they're doing when they're swimming around underwater.
Well, thank you so much, Haley. That was an absolute pleasure to go around Lion Country Safari with you. Your knowledge is amazing, so thanks for having us.
Absolute pleasure. Happy to have you here.
The Wild Palm Beaches is brought to you by Discover the Palm Beaches.
Hey, I'm Benji.
I'm Jada.
And it's time to get wild in the Palm Beaches. Morning, everybody. I'm Benji Studt with Palm Beach County's Environmental Resources Management. I'm here with Jada.
Hello.
And we are out at the Loxahatchee Slough Natural Area. This is the county's largest natural area in the Palm Beaches. And today we're going to go explore the Loxahatchee Blueway.
Awesome.
So the Loxahatchee Blueway is the paddle trail here at Loxahatchee Slough. This is so special, this opportunity, because it highlights why the Palm Beaches are so special, right? So it's the proximity of this amazing kind of blackwater Everglades swamp that we're gonna paddle through, because only about 15 minutes to the east is the blue water of the Gulf Stream. And so today we're gonna go check out Loxahatchee Slough. We're gonna see what feeds these amazing estuaries they call the Palm Beaches home, and we're gonna find out why it's called the Wild Palm Beaches.
Let's go.
You kind of get the hang of like slaloming back and forth through the cypress trees. Oh, you gotta check in, Jada. Your little praying mantis is still there. How you doing back there, Jada? So Jada, we're kind of like almost halfway into this paddle, at least to where we're gonna get to, and then we've got to come back. But I mean, what have you seen so far?
I've seen a praying mantis, I've seen this beautiful grass, these amazing plants. The water's clear as day, so you can see through and see all this plant life underneath the water.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things. So this first half of the trail, you know, you paddle down that little stub canal, but once you get under the bridge, it really kind of gets wild in a hurry, right?
Absolutely.
So you start coming into this spike rush marsh. When people think about the swamp, what do they think about? They think about mud and dirty water and, you know, but this place is just so tranquil, right?
Yes, it's so peaceful. It's amazing.
Yeah, and to kind of give people an idea, you know, this is called the River of Grass. What we're paddling through is not that deep, you know, and so it really depends on the time of year. Into the dry season, this trail does get a little bit dried out, but most of what we've been paddling through, I mean, what would you say? It's a foot and a half deep?
Yeah, about knee deep.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Jada, so we're halfway, kind of like halfway to the end point of the trail, but only about a quarter of the way if we're gonna do the whole thing, because once you get to the end to Anhinga Island, you gotta turn around and come back. But we're at this portage. So this is the only portage on the trail here on the Loxahatchee Blueway. But the reason this portage is here is because we're portaging over kind of one of these higher hammock islands that happen in this slough system. So this is this expansive river of grass, right? But it's got these little high spots where some of these awesome tropical hammock species show up. So you see some of the pines, but then there's wax myrtle and cocoa plum and dahoon holly, some palms in here. And so this is kind of the refuge for a lot of these animals. You know, a lot of these wetland species, they rely on the swamp, but they also need drier land. So these drier areas are going to be where like alligators would place their nest. You know, river otters would take refuge out of the water in these spots. So these are super important, so we didn't want to take this out when we created this kayak trail. Pretty different paddling experience here, huh?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, paddling through the grass is interesting because you think you get stuck in it, but you just slide right through.
Just glide right through. It's zen for sure. Halfway done, you ready to do the second half?
I'm ready.
All right, so we're gonna get through a little more of this grass, and then it's gonna open up into this wider kind of open channel where we're gonna be paddling through these huge lily pads. Hopefully, maybe we'll see an alligator.
Oh,
You excited?
Yes.
All right, let's go do it. So we finally started to heat up here in the morning, and that's what these vultures are doing. They're waiting for the temperature to rise so that they can do what's called kettling. And what they're doing is they're finding these hot air pockets that are moving up, you know, hot air rises. And these birds are so fine-tuned to understand these little patterns in wind. What they'll do is they'll sit around in the morning. Once you start getting some of these updrafts that happen, they'll just ride those like an elevator. And so behind us here, I mean, we've got maybe 100 birds, and these are black vultures, turkey vultures. But if we look really, really closely, we'll probably see some hawks in there, maybe some red-tailed hawks, some red-shouldered hawks, and some of these other raptors that also use these thermals to gain elevation. And so what they're doing is they're maximizing their efficiency, right? They're not wasting any energy. They're using these updrafts to lift them up, and then they can soar for miles and miles without flapping their wings even once. And so that's what they're doing, is they're riding that elevator higher and higher. The Loxahatchee Slough Blueway in Loxahatchee Slough Natural Area. This is one of these really unique paddling experiences where you can go in here through the Spike Rush Marsh. You really can't replicate it between here and the Everglades. It's also one of these places that's really remote, really fast. So if you have your own equipment, your own kayaks, canoes, it's one of the best places where you can come and really get away from it all really quickly. You're gonna see almost nobody on this trail. So Jada, the Loxahatchee Blueway, what do you think?
This is truly the Wild Palm Beaches.
Yes.